everybody. This is Robert Ferguson, where all things are talked about diet-free life. Yes, who doesn't want a diet-free life? Well, again, my name is Robert Ferguson. I want to say thank you for being here and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you information that I believe can be helpful today and for the rest of your life. Now, today we're going to talk about something that's titled Science Warns. You've been lied to about sugar. And that's a big statement. And I'm going to back it up. And it's information that we all would benefit from being aware of. Now, if you are new to the YouTube channel or you're catching me on LinkedIn or somewhere else, I want to encourage you to come over to the YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and let me know if you like what we talked about, if it was helpful what we talked about, if it can help you with your weight loss journey, your better health journey, some type of journey, or at least provided you with clarity so that you can then have the confidence to do what is necessary for you to live your best and your healthiest life. Now, I'm going to share with you some information today that's going to be new. Now, some of you is not, because you've been following me for years and you've heard me talk about this quite a bit. But for many people, and I would say most people, because we've done surveys where we've asked people this one question that I've provided in the description, but it's a question framed around between a hamburger patty and, let's say, fruit, pound for pound, ounce for ounce, everything equal. Which one's going to cause the greater insulin response, going to cause more insulin to be secreted in your body? And practically 100% out of 100%, people say fruit. And the reason why they say fruit is because we've been lied to for years. It's like sugar we think of in fruit. We don't think of sugar in a hamburger patty because there's no sugar in a hamburger patty. But the thing that has been demonized over the years is sugar. Sugar is the reason why most people believe they have obesity. They have a hard time losing weight. Carbs have been demonized. Don't eat carbs. Carbs will cause you to gain weight. Stay away from sugar. Sugar is the bad guy. And I'm not saying that sugar does not play a role, but it's not to be demonized the way it's being demonized. Because sugar is a nutrient, okay? Whether it's close to nature or whether it's made in a lab, okay? Sugar is sugar. By the time it gets into your blood, it is sugar. If I eat broccoli, that broccoli, when I eat it and it breaks down, a good amount of it is going to be sugar in my blood. If I eat bread, a good amount of it, when it breaks down and by the time it gets into my blood, it's going to be primarily sugar. And there's different types of sugar that can play different roles. So sugar, I get it, why it's demonized. However, when people think of insulin, they think of a connection with sugar because insulin is usually tied to people who are diabetic. Either you're type 1 diabetic, where your body doesn't produce insulin, or you're a type 2 diabetic, and you learn about insulin as it ties into sugar, but they are not the same thing. Sugar is to the right, and insulin is an anabolic. It's an anabolic hormone. It's to the left. And in every cell in your body, you have a receptor for insulin. And insulin is primarily known for, doesn't mean this is all it does, but insulin is primarily known for helping to get the sugar that's floating around in your blood out of the blood and into the cells. That's why it ties in with diabetes. Insulin, being an anabolic hormone, means it's framed around growth. Without insulin, it would be very difficult for you to gain weight. When someone is a type 1 diabetic and they don't produce insulin, one of the symptoms when you're older, right, more mature in life, when they figure that you must, like you could be like a type 1 diabetic, right? It's now an autoimmune condition, is that people start losing weight. And it's sudden. It's like, man, where's this weight loss coming from? People, oh, is it the C word? Like what is this? And they go in, and sometimes they're now a type 1 diabetic. So without insulin, you're going to lose weight. You can eat a whole pizza, and if there's no insulin as part of the deal, you're not going to like gain weight. You're going to probably wake up leaner the next day. Now, there's a problem that comes with that, and I don't want to make this a confusing time together. I want you to learn something very valuable today. But as I'm sharing this with you, as far as if you're a type 1 diabetic, and yes, you could be leaner the next day after eating a whole pizza. That's not what we want. Now, when that does happen, you have a buildup of sugar in the blood that can lead to a lot of problems. Stroke, heart attack, you can go blind, you could lose feeling in your fingers and your toes. Not a good thing. So you don't want a flood of sugar in your body. So then those people start injecting insulin to get that sugar out of the blood and into the cells. Okay. Let me know if this is making sense, because in the next 10 minutes, you're going to understand weight loss way better than you ever did before. Because once you understand insulin, which is a big part of what we teach with our diet-free life methodology, yes, we look at sugar, but more importantly, we look at insulin. Insulin plays a huge role in whether you're gaining weight, having a hard time losing weight, and how efficient you can be at losing it. When you understand how to eat in a way where you reduce how much insulin is floating around your body. I just want to pause there for a while. I'm serious. I just want to pause, because sometimes it helps to say, okay, Robert, like if we were all in the classroom, I would say, okay, repeat back what I just shared. Okay, like, all right. And actually, let me share one more thing with insulin. Insulin is like in charge of how energy is going to be utilized in the cells. So I'm going to say that again. The hormone insulin is in charge of with how fat that goes into the cells, how sugar that goes into the cells, how energy is going to be utilized in the cells. And I'll give you an example. And they've done this study multiple thousands of times all over the world. They'll take a petri dish, and in that petri dish, they'll put fat cells in it. And then they'll feed the fat cells, they'll put calories in it. So the fat cells have something that can help them grow. And the fat cells will just be there. And every day you come and check on the fat cells in that petri dish, they're not necessarily smaller, and they're definitely not bigger. They're just there. But then you sprinkle in a little bit of insulin. And now the fat cell starts to grow. Anabolic meaning growth. So insulin is the driver of whether we're going to gain weight or we're going to have a hard time losing weight. So for instance, in order for a fat cell to be released and utilized for energy and burn, insulin can't be present. If insulin is present, then the fat cell stays where it is. And if there's excess energy that can be used to cause that fat cell to grow, then insulin is going to cause it to grow. So oftentimes we'll say you want to eat in a way where your insulin levels are low and not necessarily focus on sugar. Now, when you look at the hamburger patty and you look at the berries, the mind again goes to the fact that, okay, the berries must be causing the insulin to be elevated more. No, you're thinking sugar again. I want you to think insulin. It's a hormone. The hamburger patty will cause the insulin levels to be elevated more than the fruit, even though the fruit has more sugar. So insulin is not just secreted because of sugar. It's secreted also based on what takes place inside of your gut. And so the further a food is away from nature, the greater chance you're going to see a greater increase of insulin. So for instance, the berries are in their natural state, right? They're not juiced. You can pick them right off the vine, eat the berry. The hamburger patty is not in its natural state. It's been broken up. It's been disrupted. It's been gone through some process and then put back together to become a patty. Because of that process, and as part of the signaling that takes place in what they call pathways, you're going to have a greater amount of insulin that gets released because it's further from nature. If I were to have a filet mignon or T-bone steak, it's still in its natural state. It's been cut off of the animal, but it wasn't broken up into pieces and put back together. We would be having a different conversation at that point, because protein and fat alone tends to, in its natural state, cause less insulin to be secreted compared to fruit in its natural state. Okay, I know I don't want to get confusing because I want us to like walk away and thoroughly understand how we can eat in a way to keep insulin levels down. Okay. And insulin is a primary driver for why people have migraines. They end up having something called insulin resistance. That's when the cells are not responding to insulin like they once did. And when you're constantly secreting insulin, over time, that insulin puts you in a state where we label you as insulin resistant. And when you're insulin resistant, that's a precursor for high blood pressure. You had to have had insulin resistance before you were type 2 diabetic. So if you know anyone who's a type 2 diabetic, they have insulin resistance, because in order to become a type 2 diabetic, you had to once already have lived with insulin resistance. Now, unfortunately, for the type 2 diabetics that don't understand this, and most of them will never get it, and God bless, and I'm sorry that's the case, but they're looking at sugar in their life and not insulin. If they reverse and deal with the insulin resistance, they automatically would begin the process of reversing type 2 diabetes. The migraines will tend to go away. Many things will go away. Weight loss becomes easier. Okay, now it's about to get really fun. And I wasn't going to go here, but I'm going to go here because I feel like we're making progress. You guys let me know. Now post any questions, even if it's not a question that maybe you already know the answer, because I get a lot of our coaches that come on these calls and they're very informed about a lot of this stuff. And they will come on the call and they won't ask questions because they already know the answer. But If you guys have a question that you believe would be good for me to answer that could help other people become more informed, that would be great. Okay. Let me give a couple shout outs. I want to say hello to Cecilia. I'm glad you're catching me. I hope this is making sense. You're a smart lady. You can tell me if it's not. I believe I see Anna is on here. Coach Susie caught me. Happy New Year, Susie. Sandy, Amy, I'm glad you guys caught me there over on YouTube. So hopefully this is making sense, because now I'm about to throw a wrench into it. Okay, so stay with me on this. Stay with me on this. Okay, so we now know that insulin is the primary thing we want to focus on and understand. Insulin is anabolic, meaning it's all about growth. Insulin is responsible for how energy is utilized inside of our cells. And insulin is also tied to inflammation in the body. Yes. There's 3 primary causes for how a person experiences insulin resistance. And not in one order, but inflammation drives insulin resistance. Woo! Stress. Yep. Drives insulin resistance. And the way you eat, what you're eating, the frequency of what you're eating. Because if you're eating in a way where you constantly have insulin being secreted through circulation in your blood, right? I ate at 8 a.m. in the morning. Then I ate a snack at 10:30. Then I ate again at maybe 1:30. Then I ate again. And every day for years doing that, every time you eat, you're elevating insulin. And the further from nature the foods are, even more insulin. Because there's ways that we can eat to keep the insulin levels down, right? So if I had chicken breasts, which basically has very little of any fat in it, it's protein. Protein by itself, and chicken breast is in its natural state, I'm not going to get much insulin. If I eat that chicken breast with slow carbs, what we call slow carbs, like vegetables, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, carrots, onions, bell peppers, right? Then they're going to call for a lighter response. So we're not going to have a lot of insulin being elevated if I'm eating protein and slow carbs. Now, if I bring in a lot of fat and I bring in, let's say, a fast carb like a potato, then I'm going to get more insulin response. So I'm going to have more insulin circulating. If I'm eating potato chips, because that's more processed, I'm getting even more insulin. So look at all the people that you know that don't eat close to nature. And they eat a lot of food that is high in fat and high in carbs, fast carbs, processed carbs. Then they have insulin levels way up and constant. And those are the people who have inflammatory challenges. Now, this is something that I'm gonna share with you guys. And even though we're talking about insulin and we're talking about the biggest lie, because this is one of the biggest lies ever told, right? Because everybody's running around glycemic index, glycemic load, stay away from sugar. Sugar's the problem. That's not the problem. Sugar doesn't cause you to gain body fat. It's the insulin. And the cool part, what I love about AI today is that you can fact check me along the way. I love that. Like I was doing a talk this morning with a bunch of fitness people. And I asked them some questions and they didn't know the answers. And we were talking about inflammation. And I said that, inflammation happens in the body way before you have high blood pressure. And I said, can somebody fact check that? Go to Gemini, Croc, Chat GPT, Google Scholar. Please fact check me. Some of you who are catching this, look, does inflammation happen before you have high blood pressure? Yeah. Does inflammation happen before you have cancer? The big C word. Okay, let's say most cancers. Yeah. Inflammation is happening before you have insulin resistance. Yeah. Inflammation is happening before you're type 2 diabetic. Yeah. So if inflammation is happening, why aren't we addressing inflammation? Because if you address inflammation, then you can shut down or reduce the likelihood of experiencing all the things tied to inflammation. I mean, I don't know how else to say this. Oh, I want someone named Dr. Artemis Simopoulos to share with you. Now, before I play this 20-second video, who is Dr. Artemis Simopoulos? Okay. Because let's say you're a physician and you're like, hey, I'm a physician. I know a lot. Let's say you're a nurse. I went to school and I'm trained. I know a lot. Let's say you're a personal trainer. I've been teaching personal training forever and I know a lot. Let's say you're a registered dietitian. I went to school and I work at hospitals and I know a whole bunch. Let's say that you are a nutritionist and a weight loss coach, a wellness expert, a health coach. I don't think you bring the same credibility to the video I'm about to share. Dr. Simopoulos is a prominent physician, a nutrition researcher, an endocrinologist, and the founder and president of the Center for Genetics, Nutrition, and Health. She previously served as chair of the Nutrition Coordinating Committee at the National Institute of Health, was a consultant to the White House Office of Consumer Affairs, and served as executive secretary for the Division of Medical Sciences at the National Academy of Sciences, NAS. And that's a short bio. Now, over the course of her career, Dr. Simopoulos she's published more than 300 scientific papers in peer-reviewed journals. Not the magazine down the street, not like, magazine, in a community or a county, not something that's online. Peer-reviewed journals. That's a big, big deal. Globally, that means all over the world, all 7 continents. She is among the most cited researchers in the scientific literature on inflammation and the balance between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. Her work has helped to shape the understanding of inflammation as an everyday driver of chronic disease. Now, I don't know. Well, let's see what she has to say. Listen up.
From clinical studies and animal experiments that inflammation is at the base of all chronic diseases, whether it is cardiovascular disease, whether it is cancer, if it is arthritis. Obesity is an inflammatory disease. Obese people have pro-inflammatory cytokines. People with diabetes.
Okay. Now, let me rewind that, because she said, we know from clinical studies and animal experiments, so in humans and animals, that inflammation is the base of all chronic diseases. All. Not most, not the majority, not many. This woman with this credibility said all. Okay. I'm going to do a whole thing on just this. I wanted to tie in and bring this up because inflammation and insulin resistance go hand in hand. Okay. They go hand in hand, everybody. So let me see if there's any questions that you guys may have. What's up, Sherry? Sherry, I don't know if these are questions. I just randomly throw them up there. She says, health risks of a diabetic drinking diet soda. What are the health risks of a diabetic drinking diet soda? You know what? I would have to point toward what type of sweeteners in the diet soda and how many they're drinking, because that could play a major role as far as disruption in their gut, which has been proven, as well as a strain on their kidneys. Okay. Any other questions? Let me take a look over at Facebook, because insulin, I mean, this says it all, you guys. Let's see here. We got, hi, it's Denise KJ from Hey, what's up, Denise? I'm glad you, Pendleton. You know, when I was in high school, my best football game, I believe it was against Pendleton, but I love Pendleton. Okay. Hey, and what's up, Tracy Olson? And again, hello, Celia. Okay. So, guys, I just shared something with you that can be a game changer for you now and for the rest of your life. I just shared it. Everything that you don't want to happen to your health, everything, before that thing happens, you had to have inflammation. And insulin resistance goes right with it. So we want to learn how to eat in a way that we can keep insulin levels down, and you want to find out what your inflammation levels are. I'm going to close on this because insulin resistance, insulin, and the reality that we have been lied to, because you think sugar is the culprit for why you gain weight and can't lose it. And it's not. The culprit, the driver, is two things: insulin and inflammation. And it's like when you look at insulin and inflammation, it's like flipping a coin. Whatever's on one side of the coin and whatever's on the other side of the coin, they both are part of the coin. So whether it's inflammation that played a leading role in your development of insulin resistance, or it's insulin resistance that played a role in the systemic impact of inflammation in your body, they're one and the same. So what can you do? Well, one, you get with someone like me and you build your accountability. Two, you get a program that makes sense, where you have some discernment and you go, you know what, this does make sense. I'm going to go for it. Right. And when I say make sense, something that's going to help you, right? It's not just eating any kind of food, because people will lose weight on the scale, but be elevated with insulin resistance. Right. So tomorrow, for instance, we have a training with our team, and I'm going to go over someone's results where they just had a balance test done. The balance test came back and everything is in the red. This person is extremely inflamed. Looks amazing. Like if I showed you a picture of this person, gorgeous, lean, fit body, always in a bikini, always showing it, looks amazing. But when you look at those numbers, she ain't amazing. On a cellular level, I'm concerned for her, because it's just a matter of time, right? So if she continues to live her life like, I'm doing okay, look at me, you know, blah, 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 right? Because she's going by what she looks like on the outside. But I have her numbers, and the numbers don't lie. The numbers do not lie. You know, And I'm not going to throw her under the bus. I would never do that to anybody and just show their pair, but I wish I could. I mean, but use your imagination. She's gorgeous, beautiful, don't have any body fat on her. Like, looks amazing. Great body, smart, but she doesn't know anything about this kind of test. She doesn't know anything. When she goes to the doctor, they look at her basic labs, cholesterol, triglycerides, right? They look at everything on the surface. They're not looking at, in the words of Dr. Samopoulos, the base of all chronic conditions. They're not chat GPTing it and Geminiing it and looking up this fact that before you find out you have the C word, you had to have had elevated inflammation in the body. Before you find out your blood pressure is elevated, you had to have had inflammation. So think about it. If you can deal with the inflammation, then many of us would never have to deal with the frustration of that condition. Now, I don't know about you, but I want to reduce my likelihood of getting anything that I don't want. And it's really easy to do it. Man, I mean, if we were in a court of law, right? And I was a lawyer and you had someone else was a lawyer and we're presenting our case and I'm presenting a case about inflammation. Who catching this live or the replay does not realize the importance of everything that we're talking about? Why wait until you have something that you don't want before you start looking for alternatives? Like, what can I do? Like, what? So it's a blessing. Like when I found out about this test where I could find out my omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, and I could do that in the privacy of my home, and I could do that for my kids, I was like, yeah. But not everyone gets that, right? Because we live in a world where I saw a study not too long ago where over 50% of all adults can't read over 6th grade reading level. And it seems to be getting worse. We're not taking the time. We don't know. So we are just going to the doctor, waiting on them to tell us if everything is okay. By the time they tell you that things aren't okay, that inflammation that you were living with has taken you to a place where you now got something that you don't want. Okay. All right. I'm done. I think I did a good job. Okay. I believe I did. Okay. Tell me if I did not do a good job at explaining what I titled Science Warns, because it's science, you guys. You've been lied to about sugar. Sugar is not the main culprit. Understanding insulin is the main culprit. It drives practically everything, right? Let's say you have a young daughter that wants to get pregnant and she has PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they put her on metformin and they tell her like all these things. Well, PCOS, if you simplified it, is insulin resistance of the ovaries. So the way that person was eating and the way inflammation worked and all the things that led up to insulin resistance in the ovaries, if we address that, that's why a lot of times when people lose weight naturally or they get healthier, they stop eating a lot of inflammatory foods, they get pregnant. A lot of gentlemen with erectile dysfunction, they stop drinking alcohol all the time. They cut back on all the processed food. They start doing some things to be a little healthier. And then boom, they don't have the same erectile dysfunction. The body wants to be healthy. It wants to perform. But we do a lot to get it out of homeostasis. We do a lot to get it out of balance. And the goal is to bring it back into balance. So anyway, let me see. Amy threw something out there. Let's see. Amy said, absolutely, I feel honored to have had this available to me. Hopefully catch things prior. Amen. Amy, I am with you 100%. And I will see and talk to you later, Amy. And happy New Year. All right, I'm going to play Dr. Simopoulos one last time, and then we are out. And I want you to hear her words as she says, quote, we know from clinical studies and animal experiments that inflammation is at the base of all chronic disease. All, not most, not the majority, not many, all. That's going to be my talk. I got a seminar I'm doing in Vegas here soon with a bunch of ladies, and I'm excited to go to Vegas and make this happen. And I'm going to open up with this quote, and I'm going to say, not most, not the majority, not many, but all. You have MS, we're talking about you. Blood pressure, we're talking about you. Survived the C word, we're talking about you. Feeling fatigued all the time, we're talking about you. All chronic illnesses. Until the next one, I'm Robert Ferguson. Thank you for being here. Make sure you like, subscribe. It does help. And if you're not sure if you subscribe correctly, just hit on subscribe and you'll see a bell and you'll see all. If you click on all, what that does is it tells the system that whenever we upload a video or we go live, to give you like an alert. Now, you don't have to stop everything you're doing just because we upload a video, but you know it's there, and then you can like listen into it at your convenience. All right. I appreciate you guys. And if you're on Facebook or even on YouTube and you think someone would benefit from what I've shared today, share this with them. Share it with them. And that's how we pay it forward. Okay. Here's Dr. Simopoulos one last time.
From clinical studies and animal experiments that inflammation is at the base of all chronic diseases, whether it is cardiovascular disease, whether it is cancer, if it is arthritis. Obesity is an inflammatory disease. Obese people have pro-inflammatory cytokines. People with diabetes.
In a world of dice, there's a new way to see. No more counting calories, just living free. Robert Ferguson's got the plan you need. With diet-free life, it's the key. No more starving, getting rid of inflammation. Choosing healthy choices, providing you with sound information. Bringing balance to hormones and insulin through food. With DFL, teaching you food choices to see you through. DFL, we're teaching you